All right, Leggies. I think we're just gonna get started now. If more people join, whatever, they can join a little late, or a lot of people I know our time zones are a lot different, so not everyone can make it anyways. So, just to let you guys know, this will be recorded and it will be posted on my YouTube channel. Usually, I have it uploaded a few hours later. So that's going to be a thing. You guys are free to ask questions on the microphone. You're free to ask questions in the chat. You can chat in the Indicators Live chat box there. I can see your messages. I don't always keep up to it, but I'll answer them as I can. Going to start by looking at Bitcoin with the MDX Algo indicators. We'll take a look at a few different time frames. We got the daily here, which I've been talking about for a long time now. We can zoom right in here. This is a 5 minute. Take a look at my Bitcoin cheat sheet on the weekly. We haven't really looked at that in a while. Take a peek at the DXY here, which everyone's going to be excited to see that. So yeah, just to get things started, guys, I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far and enjoying this pump that we've been having the last couple days. Quite honestly, I mean, this didn't really take me as by surprise. You guys know in the chat group there that I've been, and anyone following my channel, I've been very vocal about thinking that a bullish move was incoming. I personally think that there's still potential to go a lot higher, you guys. It might take a while, it might be choppy, but I really do think we have a lot of room to the upside yet for this overall midterm move here. And even if we end up getting rejected at some point and carrying on this bear market, I personally think that the bottom is in, but I am very happy to be wrong about that. Charts change, opinions change. As the structure changes, so will my opinion. But as it stands right now, I've been quite vocal about me personally thinking that the bottom is in. And I do think it's going to be a choppy ride. I don't think we're just about to go parabolic or anything like that. But you guys know my thoughts on this on the daily chart, and just looking at the MDX Algo indicators. I mean, I already did have this box mapped out for a whole bunch of reasons. One, just because we set our low here. I wanted to check if that box was going to be relevant at all. And then moving to my weekly chart, my Bitcoin cheat sheet, it lines up perfectly with our previous cycle all-time high before we started our previous bear market there. So just on a macro scale, that's a beautiful resistance to support flip there. Yes, we could absolutely drop further. I mean, there is some serious structure down close to that 10K level. Obviously, we respected this as resistance quite a bit and then even flipped it into support perfectly before we really started our parabola there last bull market. So yeah, I absolutely see reason why we could go lower. But for those of you unaware of my reasoning why I think that the bottom is in, be sure to check out my Bitcoin cheat sheet. But yeah, this daily move, like I said, not all too surprising because I already had this box mapped out. And you guys know I'm quite vocal about the fact that I do love these MDX indicators. They are easily my favorite indicators now after using them for a few months. But in the end, I like to do my own analysis and then use them as confluence. And that's exactly how this played out. Yes, it took a long time. I know I've been talking about being bullish, well, all the way since back here, so probably over a month at this point. And I know a lot of people were losing faith in that because we weren't gaining any momentum. But you guys, the bears weren't gaining momentum either. And in fact, I started seeing all these bullish divergences popping up. You guys in the chat group know that I've been very vocal about all these bullish divergences. I mean, a massive one on the RSI down here. As we traded sideways in my support box, rather than kind of losing strength, we just kept tapping away at what this is an accumulation zone, obviously. We just got so many bullish divergences while trading at this level, and that's really one of the reasons why I've been so confident about being bullish lately. Yes, I'm not saying that it's super easy to trade this range. I would say this has been an extremely hard range to trade because it has been so tightly coiled and choppy. But the overall move here, I think, is very obvious. I just think that there's so many bullish divergences on so many different indicators here. You look up here, I mean, we just have regular, hidden, another regular, just bullish divergences really just coming at us from all directions on 3 different indicators here. all while trading at, like I said, I think it's a very important level in the market. So to see that confluence was just absolutely beautiful, in my opinion. Just looking for some potential targets here. You guys know that I love my Fibonacci's, and that goes for both finding bounces as well as rejections. So right now, if I were to start kind of looking for a take profit zone, and obviously on a bigger time scale, because I'm not talking about a high leverage trade or anything like that, but just looking at for potential resistance levels here. If I just take my Fibonacci from this swing high here, and I'm also going to go over some interesting points about this as well. But if I go something like so, you can see right now, not all too surprising to see where we are struggling a little bit is the 618 Fibonacci level pulled for this swing. I have been seeing lately that the charts really like to respect these higher fibs, the 786 and 886, quite often. So I think on that front, we do have some room to go to the upside. Obviously going to be choppy on the smaller time frames when looking at that. And then another thing I want to do is look at, getting tongue-tied here, potentially bigger ranges here. So if we go to this full daily range since setting our bottom back in June here, I mean, we still have quite a ways to go until we start testing some of those higher fibs. I mean, the 618 lines up perfectly with this high down here. So there's obviously structure to be taken in at that level. And as well, both of these fibs, the 786, the 886, I mean, you can see that they were both being respected in this little price range. Well, not little, this daily price range we've had. So I think it's very possible that we are in a bigger range like that where we might end up testing a lot higher. And guys, we're getting above 24,000 US dollars at that point. And if that is to happen, I mean, it makes sense that we would actually make it to a stronger level of resistance. And we all know that there's got to be some kind of resistance between 28,000 and 32,000. We've all been watching this box like hawks. There's obviously it was a strong level of support at the just kind of before we took our initial capitulation here. Very obvious sideways trading support zone there. And I think it would make a lot of sense for that level of support to flip into resistance. But you guys know my opinion on that too, that I think that this level will actually act kind of the way $6,000 did at the end of our last bear market. We did face some rejections at that level, but we just kind of tapped away at it for a few weeks. I think it was about a month. And then we blasted off through that. And if we are able to reclaim this box, I think that's where we can more so start talking about a new bull market. For now, yes, I'm claiming that I believe the bottom's in, but I don't necessarily think that we're about to go full bull market. Another thing I want to point out, again, even another Fibonacci range here. I do want to pull it to the top of this because I've been talking in the Discord lately about how I look at higher highs, higher lows, and that kind of thing. And I'm not going to consider this. Sorry, voice is already starting to give me troubles here. I'm not going to consider this a confirmed lower high quite yet because we never did set a lower low after this. If we end up, just kind of taking that dump to the downside here, then I'm going to consider this our new lower high and looking at that as some serious resistance. Don't get me wrong, this is obviously a very significant resistance level, but just looking at it as in terms of structure, I am seeing this as our lower high on a macro time frame at this point, and that's just because obviously we had our low here, we got up to this level, and then we plunged below our low, so now we set this lower low. So I'm still saying our highest point between these levels is way up here. So that's another range that I want to watch with the Fibonacci's here. So, and on top of that, the 786 and 886 actually lines up quite nicely right smack dab in the middle of that resistance box that we're all watching. So I think that could be definitely a level that we want to watch as this market goes. That's if we continue this pump, guys. Obviously anything can happen. I could be very wrong. We just set some kind of a lower low and continue our bear market. And you know what? If that happens, I'm just going to spot buy like crazy because I don't think I'm lucky enough to get those prices for too long. But as it stands right now, I'm more than comfortable spot buying at these levels. I just, as I mentioned, I have been quite bullish recently, and you know what? There's a lot of people who are buying up at 50K and 60K, so I don't see a reason why I would be afraid to kind of buy around that 20K level as far as spot goes anyways. Obviously, leverage trading, you have to be a little more careful, but as far as an investment goes longer term, I'm more than comfortable with spot buying at these levels. Just taking a look at my Bitcoin cheat sheet chart here. This is the logarithmic chart on the weekly time frame. Even on the weekly, just look how perfect it looks like we're finding resistance on that box. On top of that, I want to really point out these RSI patterns that I have mapped out, which have led to early bullish warning signs for the next market cycle, every other cycle here. So we get our downward sloping trend line, kind of matching up with the price at the same time. If I were just to map it out, I just don't want to clutter this chart too much, but you can see we get obviously the same thing where we have this downward sloping trend line, have the same thing matching up on the RSI. We actually break out on the RSI before we do on the price, so that was an early warning signal there before we were about to, well, turn into our next bull market. Over here, after our infamous descending triangle, we had the same thing. We had this downward sloping resistance. We had the same thing on the RSI. The RSI broke at this purple dotted line. That's right here, you guys. That's a very early warning signal there. And right now, I mean, we did the same thing a few weeks ago. You look at this price level, and actually on the logarithmic time frame, it's obviously not as steep here on this last market cycle, but you can see that we did have these first two touch points. The RSI actually had 3, and it has broke and actually even got a retest and is curling to the upside. So I'm just kind of looking at this as, at least I can't discredit and not take this seriously, that this could be a very early warning signal that things are about to flip very bullish in the not too distant future. Like I said, I think it's going to take a while. I think we're going to trade kind of choppy. Have to retest this resistance line as support perhaps. But I really do think that there's a lot of warning signals here and that have a very strong bullish case in this chart. Another thing I want to point out, we've all been watching the DXY. This is a massive pattern, you guys. I know I've pointed this out before, but this Fibonacci is pulled back. Well, that's over 20 years of data on this chart right now. This Fibonacci is pulled top to bottom, looking for resistance like I was just talking about. We kind of got right into that pocket of the 786, 886 Fibonacci resistance level. That's exactly where we're getting rejected, you guys. And not only that, but it's lining up with this pattern as well. We have this upward sloping channel here, which we have been in for over 10 years. So, I mean, there's a lot of data in this chart, and I know a lot of people are saying that, no, the DXY is unstoppable right now. It's just absolutely parabolic. Yes, it was parabolic, but everything comes to an end. And this, I'm not saying the DXY won't climb. I mean, it could absolutely just get above this level, shut me the hell up, and get that retest and just absolutely blast off. But I was saying a couple weeks ago already that watch out for this level. I don't even know if we were trading in it yet. Maybe we were on this candle or something like that. But I was definitely talking about this region and just looking for resistance, and just look at us dump. These are monthly candles, you guys. These are absolutely huge. Let's go down to the daily. You can see we have massive bearish divergences. That is a very aggressive loss of momentum on the RSI on the daily chart here. Looks like we might end up breaking. Well, yeah, we already did even break. So we have this bit of an M. I would like to see us eventually actually get below this level here, because just like I was talking about with lower highs and lower lows and that kind of thing, this is kind of my higher low at this point on this chart. Until we break that level, we could absolutely just kind of dump to that level and start setting higher highs, in which case then we'd have higher lows and that kind of thing. But as it stands right now, you guys, I just want to put that on your radar, that I think that is an absolutely perfect spot for the DXY to just get absolutely wrecked. And the fact that the DXY is doing this at the exact same time that Bitcoin has all these bullish divergences and all these other reasons I've pointed out for being bullish. I mean, yeah, I don't know. To me, the writing's on the wall. I personally don't follow fundamentals at all. And you know what? I know there is absolutely times where I should. But the way I see it is I can just adjust my trading strategy, because if there is some significant news that happens or anything like that, the charts are going to show it. And as the structure of that chart changes, I will change my opinion. That's why I always say, and I know I've heard Kieran talk about it a lot, that it's way more important to be able to react than predict. So yeah, I can predict that it's going to, just dump off a cliff, but I'm not going to give that any credit until I see it happen in the charts. And as it stands, I'm just reacting to this chart. Like I said, basically since we started trading sideways at this daily support box with all these bullish divergences, I'm just reacting to that. Yes, we were in a strong downtrend. I can't deny that. But at the end of the day, I'm just reacting to all these things, this little bit of confluence that I've got. And that's just kind of why I'm bullish right now, at least for the midterm. I absolutely see reasons for things to get really volatile, and I think there is absolutely opportunity to be making a bunch of money in shorts. I'm just personally not brave enough to do that right now, because I think it's a risk of me just over trading if I try and get into a short. I'm just a lot more comfortable on the bullish side, so just to keep my emotions at bay, I'm going to stick to what kind of works for me. And this is one of those patterns that I've back tested extensively on the daily chart and the 4-hour chart. And to me, it's had a very good success rate. So I'm going to stick to that. I will also take a look at a few settings in the indicators if you guys want. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've gone over analysis wise, or about the indicators? Any, let's say any settings in the indicators? What any of the indicators do, how to change anything, I can definitely go over that. I know a lot of us have been in these streams quite a bit and have been a part of the group for quite a while. So this is a little bit repetitive, and I don't want to go too into detail here unless there's people who actually have questions about it or haven't used it all too much. For those of you who aren't tuning in live, if you do appreciate being included after the fact, do me a favor and smash that like up and subscribe to the channel. I just hit 400 subscribers, so that's super cool. Thank you everybody who has been a part of that journey. Just to kind of put something on your radar too, is with how bullish I have been for quite a while. I mean, I've been calling for the Bitcoin cheat sheet. I was thinking that the bottom was in. That was over a month ago. And ever since then, there was really only a couple times where I was kind of warning that Bitcoin was looking weak. I think only 2 times, but generally speaking, I have really stuck to my guns. And that's very important, because I know it's easy to start flipping your emotions around when a chart pattern takes this long to play out. I mean, really, we barely moved for 2 months when you look at this chart, really. I saw a lot of influencers really flip-flopping. I know that's a part of the thumbnails and everything is clickbait and all that kind of stuff, and that's how you get the interest. But there's a lot of people who were flip-flopping a lot, and really I just wanted to put that on your guys' radar, that it's important to stick to a plan. And I know I was pretty vocal about that at these levels, that yes, things were looking weak, but I wasn't willing to change my opinion until we actually got some closes below my support box, because no matter how weak support looks, support always looks weak. I mean, anytime we're trading down at support, it's going to look weak. But you know what we're supposed to do as traders is buy support and sell resistance. So until support is broken, no matter how weak it looks, especially if it does have these bullish divergences. I mean, the RSI here, the RSI is called the relative strength index. So if you see us trading sideways and the strength is just absolutely climbing at quite an aggressive rate, I mean, it just kind of goes to show that, yeah, there's no reason to be too bearish at these levels. Yes, we can absolutely start changing structure in the charts. We can start forming resistance and all that kind of thing. But as it stands, I think this is a very bullish sign for the market, at least for the midterm, if not the long term. I know I've pointed this out, but to anybody who hasn't seen this, I really do think that if we do get quite a rally, and I'm talking even blasting through this box and reclaiming it, that's when I'm going to really figure that we are in a bull market at that point. And again, not to say we'll quite go parabolic yet, because I think what's going to happen personally is that pull up our Fibonacci, full swing, bull market high to bear market low. If this is the low, obviously, if we end up breaking support and going lower, obviously those levels are going to change a little bit. But as it stands right now, if we were to break this box and start trading higher, I think it makes a lot of sense that we would end up testing the 618 Fibonacci level, at least as resistance. And that's closer to 50K, you guys. That's kind of, I mean, this could be out just very slightly. Kind of depends what chart you're on too. Some might vary a little bit. But really, anywhere from that 48 to 50,000 US dollars, I think that's definitely on the table. And it would take a while to get there. And when I say that's on the table, I'm saying that I think there's going to be a harsh rejection there either way if we reclaim this box. So my personal belief right now, and I know a lot of people are thinking that we kind of rally up to this box and then continue our bear market. I personally think what's going to happen is we'll struggle there a little bit, but we won't get much of a rejection. We'll get through, and then we'll kind of trade up towards those important fib levels. And then I think we'll pull back to this box. And I think this is really going to fuck with a lot of people. And I think people are very quickly once again going to say, well, it's bear market on. We are just going to start setting new lows and that kind of thing. But I think that's just going to be us reclaiming this at old support as support once again, and then carrying on from there. And I know I've pointed this out as well, but just anyone who is new to my channel or new to these streams or anything like that, that's just kind of going back to my previous market cycles. And nothing has to happen again, but Bitcoin loves to repeat itself. And you can see that's absolutely what happened last time. Like I said, we got back up to this old support level as resistance here, but we never got a harsh rejection. We just tapped away at it. And yeah, it was about a month there. It was 4 or 5 weeks. And then we got above it, got to that 618 level. That's where we got a big retrace. I have to discredit this chart action here. I personally don't think we would have lost this blue box as support. I know it was just a wick, but this was during the epic COVID crash in all markets. That was definitely a black swan event. It could obviously, anything like that could happen again. Obviously, with World War III talk and pandemics and the economy's a mess, we could absolutely see some kind of a black swan event where we wouldn't end up holding this box if we got above it, where we do end up getting that pullback a little further, just like we did here. But I really think that was only due to COVID there. If we go back even one more market cycle past that, you can see the 618 is where we got a strong rejection once again. This doesn't look like much, but that is a 40% pullback right there. And really even going back to going all the way back to this little, I'm going to call it a cycle, but obviously it was just barely any time at all. It was a consolidation more than anything. Something I want to point out with this is, yes, we actually did immediately get a rejection very close to that 618 fib. But look what happens when we close a weekly candle above that Fibonacci. I think this is very important, and pay attention to this, you guys. I think this is going to be the trade setup of a lifetime, or at least per market cycle. You look at that 618, we close a weekly candle above it, and look what happens to the price from there. It explodes about 500% that market cycle. Or sorry, not even market cycle was this, just this consolidation here. Yeah, over 500%. Then we have this market cycle. As soon as we start breaking this with weekly candles here, look at that, even a perfect retest of it actually. But as soon as we got those weekly closes above that level, I mean, a 2,400% increase, absolutely freaking huge. What happens here? Our most recent bull market here, as soon as we got our weekly candle close above that line, we once again got a 400% pump. So that's something that I really want to bring to your attention. I think when we see Bitcoin reclaim that with a weekly candle body close, I think it's going to be like full parabola on. I don't know. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. Do your own research, form your own opinions, do your own back testing, all that kind of stuff. This is just something that seems to happen time and time again in Bitcoin's history. Obviously, anything can happen this market cycle, but that's just what I'm looking at. All we're looking to do is look for ways to increase our odds and look for things that repeat and give us an edge on the market. And I think that's a very strong one right there. We get a candle body close above, what would that be, from our bull market high to our bear market low there. So yeah, we start closing candle bodies on the weekly above 50K. I think Bitcoin's going to go absolutely nuts, and I'm going to be looking to spot buy basically anything that I can afford to spot buy at that point. Looking back at the questions here, finally catching up a little bit. Where do you see BTC retracing to in the next day before the next push? Let's see here. If I was looking, it really depends what happens. Like I said, kind of looking for a reaction, right? So as it stands right now, our swing, or our higher low rather, or even on a 5-minute chart here, just going from the rules that I was talking about before, we had our high here and we had our higher high here. So we had our higher low in between those. That's our lowest point between those two highs. After we got above this level, we now set a higher high here. Our low barely moved up, but it did move up a little bit. That's our lowest point between the two. After that, we got above, we eclipsed our high back here. We pulled back to here in between the two. So this is our lowest point. So right now, this is what I am considering my higher low, and where I would consider structure changing. So if that is to happen, then I would start looking at, we might be getting a more aggressive pullback, if you will. Let me just clean things up a little bit here. I can move this up a little bit too, our high before that. And just clear this up a little bit. So if I was to kind of go from, I'm just looking at a little bit bigger of a pattern here. I'd be interested in seeing what kind of a Fibonacci we have here. The 618 has a lot of structure there. The 786 actually is where we set a higher low right here. So that's quite interesting. The 886 has some support here. So, I mean, we could, in theory, end up downtrending for quite a while and testing some of these lower fibs. I don't know how probable that is, because when these rallies really get going, they can really just kind of like shock all of us. I might be looking at a bit smaller of a Fibonacci, maybe going from our higher low here to where we were here. Then we have, I could see that happening. Let's say we pull back to our 618 or even 786, depending how quick it happened. If we got some sort of a crazy quick sell-off, I mean, we could actually end up getting very close to our 786 in that sense. I don't know. Obviously I do predictions, but I'm way more of a reaction kind of guy. So I would set these higher lows on my chart here if I'm looking for a pullback, and I'd be looking for some kind of a reaction along these lines, specifically on a shorter time frame, because right now I'm on the hourly chart here. What I personally like to do, and kind of how I use these MDX indicators quite a bit, very similar to the RSI, how I use it anyways. Be careful with the RSI. I know a lot of people like to consider it oversold or overbought conditions and oversold conditions. But once again, it's the relative strength index. So when it's up here, it is actually showing a lot of strength. It's when I see these crazy divergences come into play from overbought territory, for example, down into regular healthy territory. And I like matching things like that up with a bit of a double top. So you can see that would have been a nice indication from something like the RSI. I like to kind of do the same thing with the MDX algo indicators. So I would, if I'm looking for a pullback or some kind of a retrace to enter a long position, this is just me personally. Obviously, do your own back testing, like I mentioned. But I would start to look for reactions at these higher lows. So let's say, we get back down to this level, get some kind of a double bottom, and we see some bullish divergences start showing up on the indicators to line up with that. That's kind of where I'm considering like, okay, there's a chance that the pullback is over here. Maybe I will swing at a long here. That's just one of those things where, again, using the indicators, I like to use it as confluence. But yeah, that's just kind of how I look at trading, you guys. I'm looking for those reactions and certain divergences at levels that I'm already watching. So as far as pullbacks, it could be many different places at this point. I'm watching this level. I'm watching this level. After that, yeah, I'd be looking to pull some Fibonacci's from much lower. But that's just kind of what I'm looking for right now. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much there. I've been getting tongue-tied today, so hopefully I didn't trip up too bad there and confuse the hell out of you. Need a glass of water here. Does anyone else have anything interesting to add? Any trading strategies that you like to see on the indicators? What you do or don't like about them? Any questions about the indicators? Any of the settings about it? Anything?
Stu, one question. I know obviously the indicators, show more strength over the, higher time frames. But which time frames do you tend to sort of double check before if you are entering a trade? Which time frames tell you? Because obviously you can't sort of check them all, and some of them flash on and off on the lower time frames all the time. But which ones do you think? Okay, that's really it. Now I'm going in. I mean, not for like on the weekly. Obviously, that's the ones that you've got now are going to show this a bigger trend. But on a shorter time frame, where do you actually sort of pull the trigger and you think that's definitely it?
Lately, I have been enjoying the 5-minute chart, and as degenerate as that sounds, that's kind of where I'm looking to enter my position. But I do my analysis more so on the hourly. What I typically do is once a week, like after the weekly close, I'll actually start at a weekly chart. Sometimes I'll even color code them, but I'll start mapping out things on the weekly, and then I'll look at the daily and I'll start mapping stuff out, and then the 4 hour, the 1 hour, the 15-minute. And from there, I will choose my entry based on the 5-minute. So it really depends what kind of a snipe you're looking for, and that's where I actually find that color coding helps, is that I've pointed out on, I think it was my last stream, maybe the one before that, but a long position I took, and the reason was because of how the 5-minute was reacting to a daily trend line. We actually broke daily. You know what? I should just pull it up. I should really find it here so I can give you a better example. I'm not sure if you would have been here for that stream, but obviously we were all watching this downward sloping resistance line from the all-time highs, right? So I zoomed right in, and we were looking a little weak, but for about a week or so, we were just tapping away at it, just really getting that test, getting that resist to support test. But then I zoomed into the 5-minute. Hopefully it'll let me go back that far on the 5. Yeah, right here. I entered a position here. I think it was like 18,352, I think, if I remember correctly. It was kind of right in there. And what I was looking at here was that's a daily trend line, right? And it was a retest of resistance flipping into support. So I was very interested in longing that area. So when I'm interested in something like that, I'll set an alert, and I will have it go every minute until I get my ass to my phone and actually look at things. And then from there, I look at how it's being respected. So what I see here is even on the 5 minute chart, we never even got a single 5 minute candle body close below that line. We just got this wick, and then we started testing it as support. And then the MDX Algo 5 showed this bullish divergence here. And that's really kind of what really gave me the confidence right there that I wanted to trade. I also saw it on the RSI here, actually. There was a bullish divergence, something like that, as we are kind of trading at this daily support level. So yeah, I really zoomed right into the 5 minute to take that trade, but it was a daily trend line. So yeah, I kind of look at all the time frames all the time. I don't really have a favorite. I just like to start really zoomed out and then zoom in and go from there.
Cool. Thanks, man. Explains a lot.
Like, I'm less inclined to take a position if, let's say, I just happen to see a trend line on the 5 minute chart, and then we get that same kind of a reaction, like, oh, we had a failed breakout or whatever, and now we have a divergence. There's a chance I'll take a swing at it, depending how I'm feeling. But when you zoom out to much larger time frames like that and then see them respected so well on a shorter time frame, it just seems like such a nice trade setup, and usually a fairly tight stop loss as well. And that's why I really like those trade setups. And that's kind of how I like to use these MDX Algo indicators. Like, you'll notice I don't even have the signals up. I don't have the long and short signals because sometimes they make me FOMO a little bit. Like, if you get a long signal but you're trading at resistance, it's not like, that's where you want to be cautious and you don't want to necessarily listen to it. But I have a hard time not listening to it when I see it, so I actually turn them off. But I still like the other things about the indicators, and quite often I will actually double check it as well. Like, I know last night I was checking if there was any signals yet, and the trend as well. So that's another thing right there. If you look at the moving average of this indicator, we have started reclaiming that as support as well. That's actually interesting. I bet we get a long signal in the next few days here. But again, I don't blindly take longs based on an indicator. I really want to get the confluence from the indicators with my own analysis, because that's just even professional traders, like when I see people sharing their trades and stuff like that, I still just don't blindly follow anybody's trades, anybody's signals. I always make sure I'm looking at my own and making sure that those things are lining up with it. That way I only have myself to blame when I fuck up too.
The blue dots and the orange dots, they're change of trend, yeah?
These are here. Let me just get rid of these actually. Those little blue dots, that's the Stotch RSI divergences. So I don't, I've never actually used the Stotch RSI. I've heard really good things about it. But I can't give you too much information on how it works or anything like that. But I have noticed that it's been doing quite well. You get some very nice early calls with these. Like, yes, obviously, like here, the market did end up trading up a little bit. But even before that, I mean, this is a daily chart. There was plenty of time to take profits if you were, bearish on the daily because you saw this, for example. And that's where I would zoom into, let's say, the 15-minute or the 5-minute and start looking for trade setups in the short direction there. But yeah, let's just see. Even since that was called, even if you go to where that candle body closed, I mean, it still did get more than a 5% move, right? So with a little bit of leverage, obviously there would have been time to take some profits there. Not as big of a move as you would have liked, but if you did stick to it, give it a little bit of breathing room, even if you, let's say, had this little bit of a warning upward sloping trend line here, connecting these two, obviously it actually worked out absolutely perfect there. So this was definitely a great short signal, actually. I mean, we got, how far did that drop there? 26% move to the downside. So I actually like these Stotch RSI divergences more than the long and the short signals personally, and that's just me personally. But that's I just find them less intrusive, but they also do really serve their purpose of just adding a little bit of confluence. And even if I go over to the weekly
What
right now, like we have one on the weekly. That's another reason. I
what's
know
the
I made a
difference?
video specifically about this because when it showed up, I was just like, oh man, that is a very, very interesting signal. Because if we look at the weekly chart here, I mean, look at some of these rallies that it has called. 800% here. I mean, yeah, it was a little bit early at calling the market top, but it was very close. That would be a good time to start selling some spot positions. I mean, Bitcoin got cut in half there. Then we get a bullish one. Bitcoin doubles again. Even this little one here, yeah, you could say that one failed, but really, that was over a 30% move to the upside. So I think those are very strong signals, and that's another reason why I am so bullish at these levels.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you bet. Anyone else? Any other questions about the indicators or my analysis in general, or anything you want me to look at too? My voice is starting to get very scratchy. I'll give it that. So I might try and stick to about an hour on this one. Have a little more water here, anyways. Just looking at this is the 15-minute here. Let's zoom right in. Let's get right into the 5-minute here. Like the true degenerates that, well, I am. Just looking for, let's just say our current swing. It's nice to see that we are trading above the 382 actually. Obviously a very micro trend, you guys. This is keep in mind this is the 5-minute. It's a very micro swing. I'm totally over analyzing this just for fun right now for a little conversation. But yeah, we got a fairly nice reaction, a little bit of a fake out below the zero point 0.5 Fibonacci. And we're back above the 382. Quite often what happens that I've noticed is when we get below the 382 of wherever our rally has been, so obviously swing low here to swing high here, quite often when we drop the 382 we very quickly flip it into resistance, and that's when quite often, not every time, I'll give it that, but quite often we pull back to that 786. I know I've used that for profit taking on scalps quite a bit, and that's often an early warning sign there. But the fact that we did get right back above it here, yeah, we're struggling with the 236 here. Obviously got a bit of a double Fibonacci there. Even a little bit of a bearish divergence there. So yes, be a little cautious, you guys, but just we're in such a strong uptrend right now, I'm really not worried. I've been long since 19272. I've taken a lot of that position off the table, but I like to try and let a little bit run just because, again, it stops me from over trading, over complicating things, FOMOing into anything. I can still have some on the table, but not necessarily have to find a new trade and get wrecked. So I'm gonna try and let that little bit that I have run, and yeah, if we get some sort of a, let's say right now, if we were to set a new higher high, then we can obviously move up our higher low up to this level here if we're looking at just the 5-minute chart, obviously. But that's where I'd be interested to see, like, if we, let's say, pull above here, come back down to these levels, but then get, let's say, just theoretically, this is just winging it here, but some sort of a double bottom with, let's say, bullish divergence. Let's say one of these shows up in the oscillator 5 and the RSI or something like that. That's where I'd actually be quite interested in adding to my position, just because the trend is still up to the upside. And then we'd have a stop loss that wouldn't be too far away. If we got back to these levels, I'd probably, well, it's hard to say. I'll have to see how the structure of the chart looks at that point. This is a lot of what ifs at this point. As it stands right now, if we got a pullback really anywhere in this range, I would definitely be interested in adding to my position. But again, I would want to see how the market reacts. Same thing, I'd want to see some kind of a double bottom form with bullish divergences, or just some kind of a reaction, just a clear one out of any of these lower Fibonacci's or our higher low here, then I'd be interested in adding to my position at this point. What time frame am I trailing my stop loss on for my longs? I like to go up one more time frame. So let's say if I go to the 15-minute. So let's say I'm looking at adding to my position at this level. I don't have my stop loss right below it because I think that's just grounds to get wicked out. But I would definitely just keep it, me personally, I think I would go just kind of below this structure here. Just because I like to kind of give it to the next little bit of structure that I can find in the chart. Still a nice and tight stop loss, but at least it gives us just this little bit of wiggle room if we happen to drop below our higher low just by like a little bit of a wick. If you wanted to be safer, you would want to be below the actual next structure. But again, depending how much leverage you use, that obviously changes, because if you're using really high leverage, I like to keep a nice tight stop loss. If I'm looking at more of a longer term swing trade, then, well, for one, I'd actually be looking at laddering in a lot more relaxed, a lot further spread out, because as it stands right now, like, let's say we got some kind of a double bottom here with bullish divergence. What I personally like to do then would be like just add little increments. So let's say I'm trying to buy this area here at that point. If I get the reaction I want, then I just kind of set a few different orders along the way, trying to get some kind of an average in the middle, or just a little bit lower. And there's a chance you miss some of your orders in that case. But yeah, you just gotta try and stay disciplined and not FOMO back in as soon as you don't get as much as you wanted in, and then you start buying in here and really making your average price climb rather than trying to lower your average price. So adding to positions can be dangerous. It almost always bites me in the ass, so I try not to do it. But I'm a degenerate just like the next guy. Sometimes you just sometimes you get a little gambly. Let's see, just looking for some kind of support. Let's say right now, a nice little pullback to the 618 would definitely be fairly healthy in my opinion. See if this trend line forms any kind of significance, but diagonal trend lines, I really do like them, but I think horizontal levels are still more important in the markets. Like, I think that upward sloping trend line, if FOMO is strong and if the trend is really strong, yeah, maybe it'll get tagged and bounce from there. But typically speaking, I would like to see a pullback all the way back to kind of the higher low territory, just because then you have a much tighter stop loss, obviously. Hopefully I answered your question. Yeah, that DXY. That is just a beautiful thing that every crypto trader loves to see right there. You guys, just because my voice is starting to give out here and we've been going for about an hour, I think I'm going to wrap up this stream here. Like I said, it has been recorded. I'm going to post this on my Bitcoin, on my YouTube channel. For those of you not tuning in live, you may not be subscribed yet, so do me a favor, everyone, smash the thumbs up once this video is posted. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm gonna hang out with you guys a little more after I stop this stream. We can just keep things a little more casual and just chit chat. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna end this stream, guys. So hopefully you all had a great time. Again, if you did appreciate my take on the market update here, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And with that, stay safe, my friends. Peace.